in the upper right. In the blue, he is for Litecoin, ShaDoWn.
And his opponent in the lower left-hand corner, the French Protoss, it is DnS. I say the French Protoss like ShaDoWn isn't also French, but DnS isn't really on a team right now, so I wanted to just throw that in there.
It's got to add an extra word. Yeah, it's kind of funny, right? When you're talking about casting and the theory of casting, right? Player intros are probably the hardest thing to do. And it sounds, oh, casting, making sure your analysis is correct and getting a fight. No, it's intros, because the amount of times you just have things you want to say and you're like, wait, that doesn't make any sense halfway through the intro, and you're like,
yeah.
Or more importantly, you're in like a best of 7 and you're like, it's the French Protoss, it's the French Protoss, it's the French. And you're like, okay, come on, we gotta juice it up a little bit here.
Yeah.
Very easy to fall into patterns.
Yeah, you get your pattern of introduction, and then anytime you try to change that pattern, I find that the English language all of a sudden becomes very difficult. But that is a cheeky pylon, and that probe is not moving.
You know what? It's just we've had this idea of Schrodinger's pylon, right? The pylon that just you don't know whether it's going to do or something or not, but it's meant to mess up your opponent. Well, now it's Schrodinger's probe, because DnS knows that ShaDoWn is going to count every single probe that is in his base. He's like, you're a probe missing, therefore you're proxying because I haven't seen it in your base. So it's Schrodinger's probe. Now, I don't think that's actually what's going to happen here. But, so this
I think this might be a Twilight Council. We might see a Dark Shrine over here.
Dank Shrine, indeed. Maybe the call. I do think I agree with you. Of course, we do see Warp Gate, so it's not going to be a Stargate. And if it is a Stargate, man, that's a weird Stargate timing.
Yeah, the position of the pylon, more than anything, it's like, that's not really proxy. Like, rush distance-wise, that cuts, not much time off from the main base. I think it is a little bit what you're saying, that he's just trying to make ShaDoWn feel like, there's a pylon missing, it's out on the map somewhere. He's very unlikely to scout this random position that's just way out here.
I mean, you say that, but I was joking. I mean, very much there, having the probe out right next to it does mean that there should be a proxy here. And we're approaching the gas levels, but there we go. So a Twilight Council in the main base. So I think this is just going to be proxy DTs. You're right on that one. I kind of expected to maybe see the proxy Twilight as well, but no, DnS, he just wants to make it look like this is a straight up standard build. Right? Absolutely. Yeah, I'm just getting Blink.
Yeah. We do see some early Blink builds with the Twilight Council, and getting prepared for that can be very... We actually see a Twilight Council on the other side of the map that's not too much later. So as if to prove my point, ShaDoWn drops what looks to be just a regular old Twilight Council opening. And yeah, we're going to see this Dark Shrine go down. TT builds in PvP, some things have really drastically changed in since 1998. StarCraft 1, and some things have stayed exactly the same.
When behind Dark Shrine, when ahead Dark Shrine. When you're playing a game of StarCraft and you just happen to have rolled as the Protoss race, get a Dark Shrine. They make
get
pretty
a Dark
good
Shrine. It's pretty strong. If nothing else, you can get Shadow Stride, get some DT Blink up, and really win the game in a fashion that will make your opponent wish they didn't play StarCraft.
You know what, actually, what makes me pretty happy here, you're talking about Shadow Stride. Classic is now back, right? And he qualified for GSL. I'm actually going to be covering his games from that this evening. And you talk about Shadow Stride. I mean, the king of Shadow Stride, the man who killed Rogan at BlizzCon with it, is back now. So hopefully, it's kind of funny, right? Gumiho's back, and suddenly we're seeing a lot more mech in televised matches. If Classic comes back, do we see more Shadow Stride builds?
I certainly hope so. I'm very excited. It's so good to have players coming back. I think for a long time, oh my God, the Scout. Oh man. Now the Robo's almost done. ShaDoWn should just have a defense against this. Now if DnS was paying attention, he would have seen that Scout, and he can be conservative with his DTs. If you don't lose like 3 DTs trying to get damage done, you can still be in an okay spot. He's got Blink and +1, not too far behind his opponent. He can have quick Archons out, and yeah, we actually see third bases going down for both players too. Look at this shield battery. This third base might be able to be canceled though. What do we think?
Nah, the observer's just about out here. This is not going to happen. Third base, is going to go down. And by the way, this was a 4-minute third base, right? ShaDoWn has taken just about the earliest fourth base I have seen in a PvP. Normally, you do have, of course, you got that +1 blink stalker timing, but the third bases seem to be just a little bit later. And yeah, ShaDoWn taking this third base a full, like a minute, just about a full minute faster than his opponent, not taking any damage from those DTs. While the man, the crypto man, something like that, is in a fantastic, yeah, he's about to go attack as well. We got a Warp Prism underway. He is in a wonderful position in this game. He's got better economy. He's going to have a better army. I mean, DT holds their thing, but not as long as you have observers. And, already DNS is not in a great spot. I mean, yes, we have an Archon, right? Those DTs were morphed into something somewhat useful. But realistically, what do you expect here in this game now from DNS? What can he do to come back here?
Yeah, this is tough. He's just not ready for this attack at all. He's got 5 gates and charge on the way. Unfortunately, things that are on the way are not going to help you against the units that are here. With an upgrade over you, that Archon goes down. It gets 1 shot off. The force fields are kind of nice. Both players do have blink. DNS just doesn't have a lot, and I feel like there's going to be too much here for ShaDoWn. Like you said, he's got a prism with this. He's going to be able to reinforce. The force fields look kind of weird, but I think they're just mostly going to be good for ShaDoWn here. Overcharge goes down, but it gets depowered immediately.
Yeah, unfortunately here, ShaDoWn, he got the scout off. He got the faster economy. He got the better tech. And now it looks like a little bit of DNS is going to try to run across the map, try to balance things out just a little bit. But you don't go base trade to your opponent when your base is already dying, when you've already lost the fight, when it is 40 supply to 24 here from the army side. And yeah, a couple Stalkers are warping in. Yes, there's an Immortal here, but Stalkers, they're just going to target that one down. 1 tap, 2 tap, Immortal is dead. Ooh. And there's a shield battery. You can only do so much because shield battery overcharge, I believe, is not off a cooldown. Yeah, it's not even close here. ShaDoWn, he's got more than enough, and he's punching his way on into a game 1 victory, which of course is only good news for Milky Cow, only good news for the rest of the cohort sitting there at 1 and 3. Yeah, the Robo's going to go down. GG. ShaDoWn, he got the scout. He takes game 1.
Yeah. GG. Just, that was the star sense of a killer there. He knew exactly what he needed to do, and just like a perfect build from ShaDoWn. It countered exactly what it needed to. That observer was out just as those DTs got there. Even if he hadn't scouted, he would have had that observer out in time to take barely any damage. In fact, the scout probably worked better for DNS than it did for ShaDoWn, because then he knew not to sack the DTs in there. But it still wasn't enough. I mean, we talked about it in the game. +1 wasn't finished yet. He was, if he had gone charge first and just gone for Zealot Archon. But hindsight is 2020. He didn't know that ShaDoWn was going to go for a super early third base and have an observer out and just move across the map with a ton of blink stalkers to counter that DT build.
It's kind of funny, right? We talked about this. Oh, the quick third base, whatever. It didn't matter. Like, it really did not matter. Even getting an extremely fast third base, ShaDoWn still had more than enough. I mean, he would have just won harder if he'd opted to cancel his third, and get an extra gate or something. So even with that, even with the whole, yeah, I'm going to go do stuff, right? I have a third base. No, it didn't matter. He was still up like triple the army supply of his opponent by the end of that game. And now that means we're going to get on into game number 2 rather soon. It's another big map, which means more proxies, right? Just there are more spots to put stuff on the map, more room for pylons.
I hope so. I like proxy PvP. That's my favorite version of PvP.
No, you got, Juggernaut's actually a good map for this. Give me those late games. Like, you have one player, 200 supply of blink stalkers, one player, mass carriers. And then the one play, the stalker player is just trying to bounce around the map, trying to find the damage, maybe pick off a carrier here and there. And the other player is just like desperately trying to move across the map with their superior army. That is the PvP of champions. Or, Blink Disrupted. Get me into the mid game, get me into the late game. Ooh, that's where the matchup is really cool.
You've got me excited now. You said Blink Ruptor, and I'm ready to go. Let's hit the mid game.
Let's hit the game in the first place. And in the upper right, in the blue, the French Protoss player here, he is teamless, and he is down 1-0 in this series. Put your hands together for DnS.
And his opponent in the lower left-hand corner, representing Litecoin, it is ShaDoWn.
So,
Yep.
what do you think?
Looks like the
Chicken Man?
probes are moving in scouting patterns, so we're not going to see the second pylon be proxied at the very least. But yeah, I'm feeling like maybe we could see some macro games. As I say that, ShaDoWn turns around. Where's this probe going? Where's that?
One back home? No. So yeah, I guess it's checking to make sure that it's not a one gate expand and everything else he doesn't care about. Would be my guess there, but yeah.
That probe's got a. Where's that probe's being a little cheeky?
Is that looking for like
Is
proxy
this-
Stargate?
It could be. Yeah, I guess it's just scouting. I don't know. I was ready for ShaDoWn to put down the proxy pylon, but it looks like that might just be like a spotter pylon.
Yeah, spotter
You know,
pylon, Schrodinger's pylon.
Yeah, hide the pylon from your opponent, and you have a little bit of a spotter up there just in case something does try to catch you by surprise.
Yeah, so now that we know, at least we're pretty sure that there are going to be no proxied structures on the map. I mean, there's a pylon, but no proxy tech on the map here. It means we have an opportunity to go into the mid game. That is always exciting because you know what?
Right.
PvP, maybe not the most impressive matchup pre 7 minutes, but post 7 minutes where, you know, you get into these big armies, everything's active on the map, players to go different tech transitions. Yeah, that is where things get a lot more interesting. That's where things get a lot more fun. But before you do that, we got to survive the era of I want a wall, but I don't really have a wall. So I'm going to put a pylon there to make sure adepts don't find their way on into my main base. What's also interesting is, I don't know if you noticed this in PvP, but there is very much a meta of scouting pylons.
Yeah.
And actually, I'm sorry, that was a... Wait,
That was DNS's pylon. He wanted to see what units popped out.
I was thinking that was ShaDoWn's pylon. I'm like, why is he attacking his own pylon? He can just cancel it. It's like, ShaDoWn, please. But yeah, so this meta of scouting pylons, absolutely a thing. Now, we're not going to see it from ShaDoWn. He's saying, look, I don't care. I trust in my sentry scouting that I'm going to be totally fine. But yeah, DNS wants to make sure that it's not going to be like double quad adept or something like that. So we did see that scouting, we did see the scouting pylon go on down. But there's very much a meta to this, right? Like, you want to talk about the beginning of the year. Every Protoss player was doing it. They were dropping their scouting pylon ASAP. They were seeing what came out. And then they're like, it's probably not worth it. All right, the meta is stabilized. I don't have to worry about it. And then we saw some more aggressive timings once again. They're like, oh, I need to do it again. And it's just this super sinusoidal, do I drop that scouting pylon? Do I not? And it appears that at least DNS is of the opinion that in this series, you drop the pylon.
Well, I think a lot of it depends on who you're playing against and what your plan is as well. You know, ShaDoWn, I feel like these days he's just a very solid player in general. But for a long time, ShaDoWn was a cannon rusher, a cheeser. PvP was always his PvPs. If they went past about 7 minutes, it was kind of shocking. And he kind of left for a while. It looks like he practiced a more standard game, and now he is. That was me.
I think no, that was me
All right.
too. I think everyone
Was
was
it you
like that
too?
for a second.
Oh, all right. That makes me feel slightly better.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, it was everyone. I guess the server had a hiccup. I'm like, wait, what? I think we all had got the attempting. Yeah. BNet was sad and angry, but we're gonna get back into this game rather soon. I think we're all good. Should have the countdown. We've all agreed that it is everyone's fault.
There you go. All right. I feel better. I was like, oh man, we have to leave.
Game resumed.
Like, oh no, as my internet decided that I'm like, look, I'm landlined in. I got 200 down. I got like 15 up. I should be fine here. I never have an issue. And just my luck that it happens on B-Stream. But we're fine here as we have Blink +1 coming on up. We should see +1 from DNS rather soon. He did get forged at a reasonable time. And this just means that it's the gentleman's agreement, right? We got the attempted wall. Nothing gonna happen there. And we do need to start to see +1.
Where's that
I mean,
+1?
Yeah.
He needs to get into it. Maybe he clicked it, but didn't realize he, you know what? Maybe he clicked it right at the lag moment. I hope he realizes that sooner rather than later.
That would be rather sad. Or, you know, the whole, like, I have like 100, or, you know, it's just, say it's 100 gas upgrade. You're like, oh, I have 95 gas.
yeah.
I'll have it by the time they click it, then you don't. Definitely can happen. But yeah, DNS, no +1 yet. He's actually opening himself up to a rather significant timing. Which, of course...
Yeah, okay. He starts it up now. If he chronos it constantly and maybe ShaDoWn misses one, he's not even chronoing it, though. I'm a little worried for DNS now. He is just down significantly that +1 upgrade. And, you know, it might not come into play. I think upgrades in PvP are pretty important. but I don't know that it's the end of the world. A lot of times how the engagement is taken becomes more important, and it looks like we're heading towards that mid game, so I think we're going to see Charge, Archons, things that are a little less one-to-one than just Blink Stalkers against each other. But it is a bit of a concern.
Yeah, the other interesting thing, of course, is the amount of times I've seen significant +1 advantages. Really, it's +1 is when you see this. Even army supply, +1 advantage is a thing, but the power of shield batteries kind of says that even if you do have that timing, we more often than not don't see pro players really go look for it. And this is even when they do scout it. They're like, yeah, I got +1, my opponent doesn't. Because, well, it doesn't end up really mattering. Shield battery overcharge is powerful enough. You often supply is equal enough that, you know, you're not going to break them, so why even try? In fact, if you try to break them, defender's advantage plus shield battery overcharge, more likely than not means that you are the one that gets broken here. So we have ShaDoWn. He says, look, game number 1, I beat you too quickly. This time, I'm going to give you a little bit of a present. Here, have 2 probes.
A bit of a misrally there, I'm assuming. They went where the Robo was supposed to be rallied to. Kind of interesting. We actually saw both players build an Immortal. Is that? Yeah, and I feel like I don't often see Immortals built in this matchup unless you really need to defend against a Stalker attack. I don't know about you. I don't see Immortals that often these days. It's usually, let's get to Charge, let's get to Archons, let's get into Disruptors, whatever that is, but Immortals tend to just be, they have the big target on their back. You know, they're like the part of the army that if this was a Zelda game, it would be the eye on the back of the boss. And you're like, that's the first thing I'm gonna shoot.
Yeah, it's funny. So I see a lot of Immortals in games where the opponent, or where the player is not really going blink, right? They get a much delayed blink, and then it makes a lot of sense. You're like, yeah, okay, I get Immortals here, that's gonna keep me safe.
Yeah.
And then you have, you know, say Immortals into blink into Disruptors, and you got like the 4 Immortals or something that are firing strong in the back line, and eventually they die because, hey, Disruptors are a thing, Charge is a thing, but it's just that nice stalwart force. In this game, though, because it is, you know, both players that gentleman's agreement to a third base, I guess the players are saying, look, okay, you know, are the Immortals the most optimal thing to do in this game? No, not really, but they're good enough, and they're going to keep me safe, and if my opponent moves out on the map here with a bunch of Stalkers, tries to hit some timing, it's not really going to do all that much, or it's not going to kill me. All right, so now we have the Stalkers here from ShaDoWn trying to find something here, and they will see, hey, there's an Immortal, and they will lose one of their lives backing up, and I love this already. We're starting to see a little bit of multi-prong coming in from ShaDoWn.
Yeah, from both players. Yeah, the Adepts popping in, and the Adepts are doing a lot of damage over there, actually. The Zealots, they're derping around a little bit, but it looks like they are going to just be able to run away. So pretty comparable damage, all things considered. And ShaDoWn backing up now. I did see a Dark Shrine go down, and I think part of that for ShaDoWn was trying to see, is there a cannon? Where is there a cannon? And we might see Blink on the DTs. I think that's oftentimes what we see in PvP when it's starting to get a little bit later like this. You get those Blink DTs, and one cannon is suddenly not enough to defend a base.
Yeah, I love it. ShaDoWn has lost. He lost more workers in that exchange. It was, you know, 9 workers to 11. Well, yeah, 9 workers, I guess, in that last exchange to 6. DnS is still down 5 workers, despite that, just because of more eco. And also, notice here, ShaDoWn, he is heavily in the charge lot style, right? He only has 3 gas at this point. Oh, he is taking a couple more. They're not going to be there for just a bit, though. He's taking a couple more on his, you know, on his 4th base, I guess. So he is all in on this kind of charge lot Immortal idea, just making sure everything is balanced as possible. And yeah, we have this big, let's look at the Archon count here. So 4 Archons to soon to be, so 4 Archons to 3, lots of charge lots moving on in. But I think the static defense is going to be enough here. It means the DnS is not going to be able to punch his way on in, even with that 14 army supply lead. But here's the thing, right? He will have +3 faster than his opponent. ShaDoWn instead says, look, okay, I have a limited amount of gas right now. I'm only on 5 gas, even as I did take those additional 2. My play is Disruptors. I don't really care about upgrades because Disruptors do spell damage. And you know what? I mean, Disruptors against this composition that DnS has made, they're rather spicy. Ooh,
yeah, I mean, Disruptors are going to be a big game-changing unit if he can get it. A couple of nice force fields. The Archons need to break through there. It looks like there is a drop in the main and a huge warp-in, actually. Oh my god, I was talking crap about Immortals, and this one wants to show me just how good Immortals can be. Comes in, takes out a pylon. There were Stalkers waiting there, but the Immortal, I think, just straight up killed them. And now the Zealot warp-in doing a ton of damage. ShaDoWn still needs to posture out front with most of his army. I do love the defensive DT, but another massive warp-in. Oh my god, DnS, he's going to move in on the 4th base at the same time. Overcharge is used. But he just backs up. Now that that has been popped, ShaDoWn's got one less defensive tool in his arsenal. And he's trying to split up his army. He needs to get his main base under control. DnS might use this as an opportunity to pop back into that fourth.
Yeah, one thing I want to talk about here is we have a little bit of time because it looks like this is cleaned up. I don't know if you noticed, but DnS was walking around with a hallucinated Warp Prism. I'm like, oh, okay, that's cute, right? He's just trying to convince ShaDoWn that he's trying to be more aggressive than he is, right? It's just posturing. But then you realize that the Disruptor, or excuse me, the Warp Prism is in the main base, and he's trying to convince ShaDoWn that there is no likelihood of a drop. Meanwhile, of course, we saw that Immortal get dropped on in, and we saw how much damage that drop got. I mean, it killed off a gateway. It killed off a decent amount of workers. It almost got the Forge before it was, well, I guess before DnS realized that most importantly, the Forge wasn't upgrading, not really a worthy target. And I'm very surprised that DnS did not break this base because, you know, in all honesty, he got very close to it. There was a lot of recall in the main base. But anyways, now DnS here, despite the damage that he has done, right? He's sitting here, he's down almost 20 army supply, and yeah, we have +3 on the way now. It's going to be much later than what DnS is dealing with. But with these Disruptors on the field, this army that DnS has made is really not the best, right? Disruptor shots pop Archons rather well. They kill they kill Immortals rather easily, and they annihilate Zealots. So yes, if you get the proper engagement, you can get on top of them, it's fine. But otherwise, I mean, ShaDoWn, he's been able to build himself a pretty nice army. He doesn't have the macro lead that he once had, right? He doesn't have an upgrade lead. He does not have a worker lead, but his army is much bigger. And now it's his turn to get on the aggressive.
Yeah, he's got that bigger army, and also, like you said, it's just a little bit stronger thanks to those Disruptors. Looks like there's a big run by at the fourth, but this is the real story. Canceling that fifth base, and ShaDoWn just trying to keep himself ahead. There is a Prism still posturing on the other side of the map, but it's not really doing anything at the moment. It's getting pushed away by Stalkers. There's those Disruptors coming into play, killing some of that static defense, and now that they can zone the army very effectively. DnS has some of his own Disruptors, but ShaDoWn's got the better position right now. Oh, as I say that, a huge Disruptor shot from DnS, and now the Zealots chasing this back. There's no Archons in this. Oh my god, another beautiful Disruptor shot. However, ShaDoWn's also in the fourth base, wreaking havoc with a ton of Archons. There's DTs on both sides, and I don't think either side has... Oh no, ShaDoWn brought detection with this, so his DTs are going to win that fight.
Yeah, it's just Turtles all the way down,
crazy stuff going on.
All the way down here.
Yeah, it's just more DTs warping in. But looks like DnS holds that off, but 20 probes going down. And he had to bring the army from the other fight to clean that up, so ShaDoWn gets away with a lot of those Stalkers. And I mean, after all that is said and done, ShaDoWn is going to have +3 finish up very soon. He's down a little bit of army supply, but because he's up so many workers, that's only going to last for a little while. Now DnS needs to do some counter pressure. He's got Zealots in the base. Oh, he denies +3. That is huge. That is massive. The fact that DnS is going to maintain that upgrade lead for a very, very long time. And this is all just to buy time to get DnS in position on the fourth. It looks like ShaDoWn still has some defenses down there, but there's not a lot. These Disruptors need to get huge shots, and they don't. The blink forward. Oh my god! Oh, that was like 10 Stalkers. Is it going to be enough? I think it might be, but there's still a lot of Disruptors here for DnS to just keep throwing out those balls.
Yeah, we were talking earlier about how much we like the DT tech from ShaDoWn. Like, it makes upgrades don't really matter. DnS is on 7 Disruptors. ShaDoWn has 1, right?
Yeah.
So this is not a comfortable position here. Stalkers, they're just waiting until the last second to blink. Yeah, actually, nothing will go on down. Meanwhile, the fourth base here from DnS has been killed, but these Disruptor shots, they're punishing blink timings here. It does not matter whether you blink the first one or blink the second one. That shot, though, is going to be rather nice indeed as the game is going into chaos. The game is going into madness and woe, but the Disruptors are getting targeted on down. 1 goes down, 2 go down, but the Archons, again, they have +3. They're firing strong here. But you know what makes the difference here at the end of the day, Chicken Man? It is those Invisible Men, the Dark Templar, carrying the day, carrying this fight. ShaDoWn will hold his base, and he will hold his army.
He holds his base. He loses a lot of workers, but the worker count's still very similar. And at the same time, he killed DNS's fourth, which is very, very big. DnS now down quite a bit of supply. And despite that upgrade disparity, which is about to get even worse for ShaDoWn, he has the army. He might just be able to break this. He killed a lot of those Disruptors. In fact, all of them have gone down. ShaDoWn now is up in Disruptors. It's 2 to 1 fresh one that just came out for DnS. Both sides have DTs. What's the detection like at the moment? There's 2 observers here for ShaDoWn, 1 for DnS. I believe ShaDoWn actually sniped DNS's observer in that last fight, and then went ahead and warped in those DTs. We have DT blink, but they blink into observers and Archons. That is not where you want to go. Oh my god, and this engagement going